Bismillah and welcome as we explore 100 surprising facts about the Quran that deepen our understanding and appreciation of Allah's final revelation. Together, we'll reflect on its timeless guidance, its preserved beauty, and the ways it continues to inspire hearts around the world. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and share in the comments where you're watching from. The very first revelation was a call to read and recite, even though Muhammad could not read or write. That command set the tone for a book that would live through memorization before it ever lived on a page. The words were repeated aloud to followers who memorized them with exact pronunciation so that nothing was lost between speaker and listener. In those early days, there was no bound book. Verses were written on parchment bone, leather, and palm leaves, but the main archive was in the human mind. Entire surahs were stored in memory and recited daily in prayers, which acted as a constant review system, making errors nearly impossible to survive. The language of the Quran was classical Arabic at its most eloquent form, known for rhythm, internal rhyme, and a flow that no ordinary speech could match. Listeners at the time were stunned because the style was unlike poetry and unlike prose. It belonged to its own category. This literary uniqueness became one of the reasons believers saw it as divine. Early followers did more than memorize. They cross-checked each other constantly. If one forgot a vowel sound, another would correct it. This communal recitation culture meant no one person controlled the text, and no one person could alter it without the entire group noticing. The Quran was revealed over 23 years, not all at once. Verses came down in response to events, questions, and challenges. This gradual revelation kept it tied to real life and allowed people to understand and apply each section before moving to the next. One of the most surprising things is that the order in which verses were revealed is different from the order you find them in the Quran today. The arrangement was guided by instructions Muhammad gave his companions, who placed verses in specific positions within surahs according to those instructions, not by chronological sequence. The first complete surah ever revealed was Surah Al-Alaq, which begins with the command to read in the name of your Lord who created. It focuses on knowledge and the creation of human beings from a clot, a message that set the intellectual and spiritual tone for the whole scripture. Some companions of the Prophet served as scribes, whose sole duty was to write down each new revelation immediately after it was received. They used whatever materials they could find and stored them carefully, knowing that even a single letter was precious. This first chapter in the Quran story ends with the realization that what started as a voice in a cave became the center of a living tradition, a tradition built on memory precision and an unbroken chain of human connection, and that's just the beginning. After the passing of the Prophet, the Muslim community faced a crisis. Many of those who had memorized the Quran were lost in battle. The fear was that if more were lost, so would the words they carried in their hearts. This pushed the first Caliph Abu Bakr to commission a single complete written copy from the memories of reciters and the scattered written fragments. The task fell to Zayd ibn Thabit, who had served as one of the Prophet's scribes. He gathered every verse from parchment bone, palm leaves, and the minds of companions. Nothing was accepted unless two trustworthy witnesses could confirm they had heard it directly from the Prophet. That first compiled manuscript was kept with Abu Bakr, then passed to the next caliph, Umar, and finally to Hafsa, the daughter of Umar, who safeguarded it. For years, it served as the reference for all reciters and scribes. As Islam spread beyond Arabia, different dialects caused variations in recitation. These were not new words, but differences in pronunciation and style allowed in the original revelation. However, disputes began to arise between distant communities. The third caliph, Uthman, saw the risk of division and ordered a standardized master copy. This copy preserved the Quraysh dialect used by the Prophet. From it, multiple identical copies were made and sent to major cities across the empire. To prevent confusion, Uthman instructed that all other personal or regional copies be destroyed. This was not an attempt to hide anything, but to ensure that the Quran would remain one unified text for all Muslims. The science of Qira'at developed to preserve the different authentic recitation styles that came from the Prophet. Each style was passed down through certified teachers in an unbroken chain. These are still taught and practiced today with precise rules for pronunciation and melody. Over the centuries, identical Quranic manuscripts have been discovered from different parts of the world matching the Uthmanic text, letter for letter. From ancient Kufic script copies to later illuminated manuscripts, the consistency has been remarkable. In the early 20th century, the 1924 Cairo edition was produced as a standardized printed Quran. It followed the Uthmanic text exactly, but provided a uniform script and diacritical marks to make recitation easier for readers from all nations. Today, the preservation continues in digital form. There are verified online databases of the Quran and audio recordings from certified reciters. No matter where you are in the world, the words you read or hear match the same words preserved from the very first revelation. The chain has never been broken. The Quran's language is unlike anything else in Arabic literature. Even the most skilled poets of the time were stunned because it didn't match their known forms of poetry or prose. It stood alone as something new, powerful, and mesmerizing. Classical Arabic in the Quran is richer and more complex than modern standard Arabic. Words often carry multiple layers of meaning, allowing a single verse to be understood in different ways without contradiction. This is why translations can never fully capture the depth of the original. The Quran uses rhetorical devices that make its message memorable. These include rhythm, repetition, parallel structure, and sudden shifts in perspective that grab the listener's attention and hold it. One striking feature is its symmetry. Themes in words often appear in balanced patterns. For example, certain words are used the same number of times as their opposite terms, like life and death, or belief and disbelief. Some scholars have studied numerical patterns in the Quran, finding links between the number of verses, letters, and themes. While interpretations differ, the intricate structure continues to fascinate readers and researchers alike. The absence of contradictions is another point believers highlight. Despite being revealed over 2 decades in changing circumstances, its message remains consistent across every topic and setting. Oral recitation is central to its identity. The words were designed to be heard as much as read. A skilled reciter can convey emotion, pace, and emphasis in ways that bring the text to life, even for someone who doesn't understand Arabic. Tajweed is the science of reciting the Quran correctly. It governs how each letter is pronounced, how long vowels are held, and where pauses occur. Learning it can take years, but it ensures the sound of the Quran remains the same across generations. The Quran addresses its listener directly, shifting between stories, commands, and questions. This style keeps the audience engaged and gives the impression of a live conversation rather than a distant reading. Many who have no background in Arabic still find themselves moved by the sound alone. The combination of melody, rhythm, and meaning has given the Quran a place not just in religion, but in the world of literature and oral tradition. It remains unmatched in style and emotional impact. The Quran is made up of 114 surahs, or chapters, each containing a different number of verses known as ayahs. Some surahs are only a few lines long, while others span many pages. This variation gives the recitation a natural rhythm of short bursts and long flowing passages. Surahs are classified as either Meccan or Medinan based on when and where they were revealed. Meccan surahs focus more on faith, the afterlife, and moral guidance, while Medinan surahs address laws, community matters, and social responsibilities. The arrangement of surahs in the Qur'an is not chronological. Instead, they are placed in an order the Prophet himself instructed, with some of the earliest revelations appearing later in the text and some of the last ones appearing earlier. The very first surah in the Qur'an is Al-Fatiha, also called the opening. It is a short 7-verse chapter recited in every unit of Muslim prayer, making it the most repeated section of the Qur'an worldwide. Some surahs begin with mysterious disjointed letters known as huruf muqatta'at. Their exact meaning is unknown, though scholars have proposed many interpretations. They remain one of the Qur'an's enduring linguistic mysteries. Certain themes run throughout the Qur'an, appearing in different surahs and contexts. Stories of past prophets, justice, and mercy, and the call to reflect on creation are repeated to reinforce key lessons and to reach different audiences. The placement of verses often mirrors the thematic balance within a surah. For example, a warning might be followed by a promise, or a story of struggle followed by one of relief. This structure creates a sense of harmony within the text. The Qur'an uses repetition as a teaching tool. Certain phrases, like "which of the favors of your Lord will you deny," appear many times within a single surah, driving the message deep into the mind of the listener. Many surahs are named after a key word, story, or image found in them, such as the cow, the star, or the cave. These names help with memorization and quick reference, even though they are not necessarily the main theme of the surah. The order and structure of the Qur'an has remained unchanged since the time of the Prophet. No rearrangements, no additions, and no removals have been made, ensuring that every recitation today follows the same sequence set over 1400 years ago. This structure is part of what gives the Qur'an its sense of timeless unity. Some people are surprised to learn that the Qur'an contains verses that align closely with natural phenomena observed centuries later. These are not framed as science lessons, but as signs to reflect on creation. One example often mentioned is the description of human development in the womb. The Qur'an speaks of a creation from a drop, then a clot, then a lump of flesh, stages that echo the process recognized in embryology today. The Qur'an describes the movement of the sun and moon, each in its own orbit. At a time when many cultures believed the earth was fixed and everything else moved around it, these words invited reflection on cosmic order. The water cycle is described in multiple verses, mentioning how rain forms from clouds, how it nourishes the earth, and how rivers and springs bring life to plants and animals. These details match the modern understanding of evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. Another fascinating image is that of two seas meeting, yet not mixing completely with a barrier between them. Oceanographers have observed this phenomenon, where bodies of water with different salinity and temperature resist blending. The Qur'an speaks of all living things being made from water. This aligns with what biology now confirms, that water is essential for all known forms of life. In botany, the Qur'an refers to plants being created in pairs, which can be seen as a reference to the male and female reproductive systems in many species. It also calls on people to reflect on the diversity of crops and fruits, each with its unique taste, despite sharing the same soil and water. The Qur'an mentions mountains as pegs that stabilize the earth. While not a geology textbook, the imagery resonates with how mountain ranges influence the stability of the Earth's crust through tectonic activity. Psychological insights also appear in the Quran, such as the idea that hearts find rest in the remembrance of God. Modern studies show links between mindfulness, spiritual practice, and reduced stress levels. While believers see these verses as signs, skeptics often caution against forcing modern interpretations onto ancient texts. Regardless, the fact remains that the Quran continues to inspire curiosity about the natural world and our place in it. It invites reflection across time and cultures. Some people are surprised to learn that the Quran contains verses that align closely with natural phenomena observed centuries later. These are not framed as science lessons, but as signs to reflect on creation. One example often mentioned is the description of human development in the womb. The Quran speaks of a creation from a drop, then a clot, then a lump of flesh, stages that echo the process recognized in embryology today. The Quran describes the movement of the sun and moon, each in its own orbit. At a time when many cultures believed the earth was fixed and everything else moved around it, these words invited reflection on cosmic order. The water cycle is described in multiple verses, mentioning how rain forms from clouds, how it nourishes the earth, and how rivers and springs bring life to plants and animals. These details match the modern understanding of evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. Another fascinating image is that of two seas meeting, yet not mixing completely with a barrier between them. Oceanographers have observed this phenomenon where bodies of water with different salinity and temperature resist blending. The Quran speaks of all living things being made from water. This aligns with what biology now confirms, that water is essential for all known forms of life. In botany, the Quran refers to plants being created in pairs, which can be seen as a reference to the male and female reproductive systems in many species. It also calls on people to reflect on the diversity of crops and fruits, each with its unique taste, despite sharing the same soil and water. The Quran mentions mountains as pegs that stabilize the earth. While not a geology textbook, the imagery resonates with how mountain ranges influence the stability of the Earth's crust through tectonic activity. Psychological insights also appear in the Quran, such as the idea that hearts find rest in the remembrance of God. Modern studies show links between mindfulness, spiritual practice, and reduced stress levels. While believers see these verses as signs, skeptics often caution against forcing modern interpretations onto ancient texts. Regardless, the fact remains that the Quran continues to inspire curiosity about the natural world and our place in it. It invites reflection across time and cultures. The Quran contains detailed accounts of earlier prophets and civilizations, often with moral lessons tied to their stories. These narratives serve not only as history, but as reminders of what happens when truth is accepted or rejected. One recurring story is that of Moses and the Israelites. The Quran recounts their escape from Egypt, the crossing of the sea, and the struggles they faced afterward, highlighting patience and gratitude as central themes. The Quran also speaks about the conflict between the Romans and the Persians, predicting that the Romans, after their defeat, would soon claim victory again. Historical records confirm that this reversal did take place within the time frame the verses describe. Some accounts align with archaeological findings, such as the mention of ancient peoples like Ad and Thamud. Ruins and inscriptions linked to these names have been discovered in the Arabian Peninsula, suggesting they were real historical communities. There is a striking mention of Pharaoh's body being preserved after his drowning. Today, the mummified remains of rulers from that era are indeed preserved in museums. allowing people to literally see a remnant of that history. The Quran's account of Jesus is unique among religious texts. It affirms his miraculous birth, his ability to perform miracles by God's permission, and his role as a messenger, while also rejecting certain beliefs about his nature found in other traditions. Other stories in the Quran are less known outside Islamic tradition, such as the people of the cave, a group said to have slept for centuries before waking again. This story appears in other cultures, but with different details. Prophecies within the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad also came true, such as the peaceful entry into Mecca after years of exile, which had seemed impossible to his followers at the time. The Quran consistently ties historical events to lessons for the present, urging listeners to see patterns in human behavior and the rise and fall of societies. It calls this Sunnat Allah, or the way of God in history. Whether one approaches these accounts as faith, history, or literature, they form a continuous thread through the Quran, connecting past events to present choices and future consequences. The past is never just the past. It is a mirror for the now. The Quran has shaped art and culture for over 14 centuries, influencing architecture, literature, music, and calligraphy across the Muslim world. Its verses are not only read, but often displayed as works of beauty in their own right. Islamic calligraphy grew largely from the desire to honor and beautify the words of the Quran. Scribes developed intricate scripts like Kufic and Naskh, turning written verses into visual masterpieces. Mosques across the world are adorned with Quranic inscriptions carved into stone, painted on walls, or laid in mosaic tiles. These designs are meant not only to inspire, but to keep the words alive in public spaces. Manuscripts of the Quran have been illuminated with gold leaf and vibrant colors, transforming each page into a combination of sacred text and fine art. Some historical copies are so detailed they took years to complete. The rhythm of Quranic recitation has influenced music and oral performance traditions in many cultures, even though the recitation itself is distinct from music. The melodic patterns and pauses have inspired spiritual and poetic styles globally. In literature, many Muslim poets and writers have drawn imagery, metaphors, and themes from the Quran. These references often appear subtly, yet carry deep meaning for those familiar with the text. In education, the Quran has been central for centuries. Schools in the Muslim world often begin by teaching children to recite and memorize verses, shaping language skills and moral understanding from a young age. Cultural expressions of the Quran differ from region to region. In some places, public recitations are a regular community event, while in others, ornate copies are gifted at weddings, births, or significant milestones. Historical Quranic manuscripts are preserved in museums and libraries worldwide. These collections allow people from all backgrounds to appreciate the artistic heritage of the Quran, even if they cannot read Arabic. Whether in the architecture of a grand mosque, the delicate curves of calligraphy, or the quiet voice of a reciter in a market, the Quran's influence on culture is a living, ongoing presence. It continues to inspire beauty in forms as diverse as the people who read it. For many, the Quran is more than a book to read. It is a companion in life. People turn to it for comfort, guidance, and clarity when facing challenges. Its verses are recited daily in the 5 prayers, creating a rhythm that connects believers to its message multiple times each day. This constant repetition reinforces both memory and meaning. The practice of memorizing the entire Quran, known as hifz, is a tradition that has been passed down through generations. Those who complete it are called hafiz and are respected for carrying the entire text in their minds and hearts. Reflection on the Quran, known as tadabbur, is encouraged so that its words are not just spoken, but deeply understood. This can mean pondering a single verse for days or applying its message to everyday decisions. Many people describe feeling a profound emotional response when hearing the Quran recited, especially in a beautiful voice. Even those who do not speak Arabic often feel a connection through its sound alone. In times of grief, believers often find solace in its verses, which speak of patience, hope, and the promise of reward for enduring hardship. The words can serve as a source of strength when nothing else seems to help. During Ramadan, entire communities gather nightly to listen to the Quran recited from beginning to end over the course of the month. This creates a shared spiritual experience that unites people across ages and backgrounds. Some people credit the Quran with personal transformation. Stories abound of individuals who changed harmful habits or found purpose after reflecting on its verses. The Quran also plays a role in important life moments such as weddings, funerals, and naming ceremonies where specific passages are chosen to mark the occasion. For those who embrace it as a guide, its words become more than text on a page. They become a living voice, shaping choices, emotions, and the way a person sees the world. This connection keeps the Quran alive in the hearts of millions. Today, the Quran is more accessible than at any point in history. With a few taps on a phone, anyone can read it in dozens of languages or listen to it recited by voices from every corner of the world. Modern translations and commentaries continue to grow, allowing people to explore not only the words, but the historical and linguistic background behind them. These resources make study possible for people far from traditional learning centers. Digital archives now store verified versions of the Quran, both in text and audio. These databases are checked by scholars to ensure accuracy and are used by millions worldwide. Quran competitions are broadcast globally, showcasing young reciters who have memorized the entire text and can recite it flawlessly from memory. These events inspire others to begin their own memorization journeys. Universities and research centers study the Quran's language, structure, and history using tools from linguistics, archaeology, and literary analysis. This academic interest crosses cultural and religious boundaries. The Quran is often at the heart of interfaith dialogue, where people of different beliefs explore its teachings to better understand one another. These discussions can highlight common values and shared human concerns. Efforts to preserve the Quran in the digital age include secure backups and verification systems to protect against alteration. These safeguards ensure the text remains identical everywhere it appears. In many countries, public readings and recitations are streamed live, allowing communities to join together virtually, just as they once did, only in person. This has extended the Quran's reach to people who might otherwise feel isolated. For modern Muslims, the Quran is not only a link to the past, but a guide for navigating the present. It shapes identity, informs decisions, and connects them to a tradition that spans continents and centuries. As technology continues to evolve, the Quran remains constant. Its words are the same today as they were when first recited in the Cave of Hira, yet its audience is now global, connected, and able to engage with it in ways never before possible. The journey that began in the heart of the desert now continues in the heart of the digital world. From a solitary command in a mountain cave to billions of hearts and voices across the globe, the Quran's journey has been one of unwavering preservation and living connection. Its words have crossed deserts, oceans, and centuries without change, memorized, recited, and cherished by generations. More than a text, it is a voice that speaks to faith, reason, beauty, and human experience, inviting each listener to reflect. In an age of constant change, it remains what it has always been, a timeless guide, a source of inspiration, and a living link between the past, present, and future.